Usually, every single week, I do tight end rankings on this channel for every single week of fantasy football. Well, I got news for everybody. Week 7 fantasy football features a ton of bye weeks right now. So I think it's better for us to go through a must-start and must-sit tight ends list for Week 7 fantasy football. So we're going to go through all the matchups, see who the best options are at tight end. I just hit 6,000 subscribers, guys, so thank y'all very much. And to celebrate, I'm going to be giving away more FFN white hats this week. Go down there in the comments, drop your hottest take for Week 7 fantasy football for a chance to win this hat. Make sure to check your comment section and check on if you have a reply from me, and you'll know that you won the hat this week. Over the next 7 days, I'll be picking 6 winners of this hat right here. So please, again, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to show your support. So let's go ahead and dive right into these matchups right here. The first matchup of the week is the Thursday night matchup between the Jaguars and the Saints. It's going to be in New Orleans this week, and you're going to start Evan Ingram. I get it. Evan Ingram is not always a big boom play in fantasy football. Like, Evan Ingram hasn't even found the end zone yet this season. I understand you're looking for a big boom play at tight end, but there are some guys at the tight end position where you are going to get big boom plays from, but for the rest of them, you're looking for volume. Well, the good thing about Evan Ingram is he always gets volume, but he also does have big plays attached to him. He's on an efficient offense with a great quarterback, so he's able to get 20, 30-yard catches every single game. There's a difference here between a guy like Zach Ertz, for example, who gets plenty of targets per week, but he's on a very low-tier, low-level offense. Evan Ingram has the volume that Zach Ertz has, but he also has the efficiency, and he also has the big plays attached to him that Zach Ertz does not. You continue to play Evan Ingram. He's definitely going to be an upper-tier tight end option. You can absolutely consider Taysom Hill. And when I have the flex territory right here, understand that this group of guys is the ones I would consider playing. I don't consider flexing tight ends. If you have a tight end in flex territory on this list, that means I'm considering playing them. And if you're going for a tight end play where you just want a big play and you want a big score, Taysom Hill can always do that for you. I mean, Taysom Hill last week had 7 catches in their game versus the Houston Texans. So Taysom Hill still is involved in this offense. He's a jack of all trades. We all know exactly what he does. I'm sitting Juwan Johnson. He's hurt, but even if he wasn't hurt, I'd sit him anyways. He's been pretty irrelevant this year in the New Orleans Saints offense. Falcons at Buccaneers is the next matchup here. And it's funny because Kyle Pitts, we were all disappointed with him just weeks ago. I remember just weeks ago, people were like, can I drop Kyle Pitts? I hope you didn't, because Kyle Pitts is still a very good fantasy option at the tight end position. And the reason why has been clear to me from day one, and the reason I kept saying to start Kyle Pitts is because he's attached to big plays. He's one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen at the tight end position. Just because he's on a bad offense doesn't mean he's bad. He's clearly very good. He got in the end zone last week, provided you a pretty good game at the tight end position. So Kyle Pitts coming off a big game against the Bucs defense I don't love, but I'm definitely going to be starting Kyle Pitts, and I definitely tell my audience to start Kyle Pitts. Jonnu Smith can be played as well. Jonnu Smith, the crazy thing about Atlanta is that they've actually got two pretty reliable tight end options. They've got 2 tight ends in the top 15 in fantasy football right now. Jonnu Smith has actually been better more consistently than Kyle Pitts. So Jonnu Smith, if you've got him, and if you're looking at a different option like Hunter Henry, for example, or Cade Otton, you better be playing Jonnu Smith, because Cade Otton in the same lineup, you're not going to put him in your lineup because Cade Otton just isn't seeing the volume. Cade Otton is clearly one of their bottom tier receiving options. You just can't play a tight end that's not getting many targets. He's got like less than 20 targets through the first 4 games. It's not very good. Moving on to our next matchup, we've got the Raiders at the Bears here. And I get it. Cole Kmet is coming off a week where he left a lot to be desired. I mean, that's the thing with Cole Kmet. I had said that after he had his breakout performance. I said, be prepared for him to bust again. And that's why I called him a fool's gold waiver wire pickup after he broke out. Because I guarantee you, his roster percentage is about to go down again. And that's why you can pick him up now and play him. Because Cole Kmet is coming off a really bad week, and that's the reality with Cole Kmet. not only is he a hot and cold player himself, but he's just on a hot and cold offense. And we don't even know if Justin Fields is going to be there. In fact, the reports I've seen is that Justin Fields will not be playing. So expect Justin Fields to not be playing and expect Cole Kmet to have a lower ceiling. With that said, I do think that the quarterback in Chicago, Tyson Bagent, I think he'll be able to find some consistency and be able to rely on Cole Kmet as a decent target. And at the tight end position, you want to go for an upside play, and Cole Kmet certainly does have the upside. Here's the thing. I know that Michael Mayer is coming off his best game as a pro, and believe me, I like Michael Mayer. He was my top tight end in this draft class before Dalton Kincaid. I've always liked Michael Mayer. I'm not ready to start him yet. There's too many changes and too many moving parts in this offense for me. You've got a quarterback change probably. Jimmy Garoppolo's probably not going to play. The tight end position, Michael Mayer just haven't been involved enough throughout the whole season. There's no track record for me to be able to follow and tell my audience, yes, you could confidently start Michael Mayer. We may start to see it. We may start to see it develop, but we're not there yet. So Michael Mayer remains on the sidelines, and I implore my audience to put him on their bench as well if you intend to pick him up. Browns at Colts is the next matchup here. I've got nobody in must-start category. It's so funny because David Njoku was a top 10 tight end for me heading into the season. He's not really startable in my opinion. I have him in flex territory, but I have him below Kylen Granson. Kylen Granson, if he plays, and he's in concussion protocol, so he may not play. In fact, I would actually lean on the side of him not playing because there haven't been many players this year so far that have come off the concussion protocol same week. The NFL's trying to get rid of that stuff. They're trying to avoid a lot of heat from the media, and by telling their players do not play them if they're coming off a concussion the previous week. So Kylen Granson probably is not going to play. David Njoku would be behind Kylen Granson if he played. Here's a fact. Kylen Granson has been much better in fantasy football this year than David Njoku. David Njoku's been pretty bad, actually. Not as bad as Pat Freiermuth, who we'll get to in a little bit, but it hasn't been good. So I think that David Njoku, if you're desperate, you could play at tight end. But so far, there's not only is there not volume, but there hasn't been big plays attached to David Njoku. I've got no confidence playing him right now. Commanders at Giants. We're going to go ahead and keep playing Darren Waller. And you saw it the other night on Sunday night versus the Bills. Darren Waller is clearly their target number one. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Darren Waller is consistently the main target in this offense. The offensive upside is so low that Darren Waller just doesn't have many scoring opportunities. But Darren Waller, just based on importance and target volume, is going to be a must-start pretty much every single week for me. I can't imagine he won't be, unless, of course, he's injured and he can't go. But Darren Waller is still an efficient player. When he gets the opportunity, he can still make plays down the field. So I think that there's a chance we could see a score from Darren Waller this week against a bad Commanders defense, but I'm not going to call it. I'm just saying that Darren Waller definitely does belong in your lineup. Logan Thomas also, you can consider him. Logan Thomas had been really good in fantasy football up until last week. And last week was his first game where he really was just bad. He had one catch for 2 yards. Again, that happens to everybody at the tight end position. What we're looking for is upside at the tight end position, either by consistent volume or by big plays and touchdown ability. Logan Thomas has the volume capability. He's been one of their leading wide receivers all season. So Logan Thomas definitely does have the history this season of getting volume. And they're playing a bad Giants defense, so I can definitely see putting Logan Thomas on my starting lineup over a lot of different guys. He's actually, when I ranked my tight ends this week, Logan Thomas was actually in the top 15 still. So I think you could play Logan Thomas just fine. I just wouldn't go out of my way to do it this week based on the bad week he had last week. Lions at Ravens is the next matchup here. You've got two obvious solutions here. You start Mark Andrews, you start Sam Laporta. Mark Andrews, even if he doesn't get a touchdown, you don't put him on your bench. Mark Andrews is just too important to this offense. That's the answer. You don't put Mark Andrews on your bench. Sam Laporta, you don't put him on your bench right now either. I love Sam Laporta. In fact, if he was fully healthy right now, I would have him ranked above Mark Andrews. The only reason he's not above Mark Andrews is because he was a little bit limited last week. Not based on snap count and not based on volume, because When you look at his week last week, he was still super involved. He had like 11 targets last week. He wasn't as efficient with those targets. I think that could change as soon as this week. Either way, you don't put Sam Laporta on your bench. It's just not something you do. Bills at Patriots is the next matchup here. Nobody's must start. Hunter Henry had a couple good games at the start of the season. Was briefly the tight end one in fantasy football. Yeah, those days are long gone. Those days are not coming back either. The Patriots offense is terrible. The only one I would consider playing is Dawson Knox. And the only reason I'd consider playing him is 1, because of the offensive upside, and 2, because of the matchup upside. The Patriots are a terrible team. Offensively, defensively, even their coaching is bad. And this is coming from someone who grew up loving watching Bill Belichick's teams. The best coach I've seen in my lifetime runs a bad football team these days. It's just a fact. And so I would play Dawson Knox if I was given the opportunity to. If I was choosing between him and a guy like Zach Ertz or even Donald Parham, I would probably play Dawson Knox over those guys because of the matchup upside. I'm not playing Dalton Kincaid, and he's not exactly healthy right now. He's in the concussion protocol. Either way, it does not matter. You don't play Dalton Kincaid. Same thing with Hunter Henry. You can't play Hunter Henry right now. Their offense, as I just said, is terrible. Like, there's no upside on this offense at all. No confidence in any Patriots player right now. Besides, maybe Ramondre Stevenson. That's a different story for a different day. Cardinals at Seahawks is the next matchup here. Again, nobody's must start. There's just not enough upside on either of these tight end groups for me to say there's a must start guy. Zach Ertz, I know that he gets targets. I know that he sees volume. But it's like I discussed earlier. Zach Ertz is in the category where, yes, he may get 5 to 6 targets per game, but he's getting like max 40 yards per game because the Cardinals offense just isn't very good. That's the problem here. So if he was on a better offense, if he was still on the Eagles, I would say, yeah, you could play Zach Ertz based on that volume, but not in this offense, man. You can play him, but I would not say that he's a must start, and I would not start him over guys that we've already discussed. Noah Fant, I just don't see the volume there. He's hit a couple big plays this season on very low volume. And he's just not as good of a player as someone like a Cole Kmet, who, with minimal volume, he can go make a couple big plays. I just don't see it with Noah Fant. I would not advise my audience to play him. Steelers at Rams. You can start Tyler Higbee for sure. Tyler Higbee, as much as I've been disappointed watching his volume decrease with the return of Cooper Kupp, which is expected, of course, Tyler Higbee's in a good matchup here. I think the Rams are going to throw all over the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. So I could see the upside play with Tyler Higbee. He's not a top 10 tight end for me. He's at number 12 for me this week. I would just say that you could play Tyler Higbee in a lot of situations. Pat Freiermuth, if you're desperate, you can do it. You can do it. I would not go out of my way to do it, though. Pat Freiermuth's upside is just not there. He's just not been very good. He doesn't even have 100 yards that he had this season. It's not good. It's not good at all. But based on history, based on volume history, I can understand wanting to take a shot there if you're desperate. Chargers at Chiefs is the next matchup. Obviously, you start Travis Kelce. Let's not even discuss it even further. Gerald Everett, I think, is a start. Gerald Everett, on an explosive offense, sees relatively consistent volume for a tight end. It adds up for me. Gerald Everett, I think, is definitely a good start. And I think this week, there's going to be a lot of points in this matchup. So I would say Gerald Everett is a pretty decent start. Donald Parham, honestly, I could see people wanting to start him as well. That's a deep shot, I would take. Because the upside is the dude gets targets in the red zone. He's a big target. He's athletic. I can understand wanting to take a deep shot. It's kind of like a Taysom Hill situation where it's like, I'm banking on the fact that he gets one target or one opportunity and he gets in the end zone. I can understand that play. I can understand it a lot better than a lot of other plays. Packers at Broncos is the next matchup here. Luke Musgrave's a start right now. There's simply too many bye weeks. There's simply too many injuries. I would say Luke Musgrave is a pretty decent start. He's been important to the offense. I don't love the Packers offense right now. I think they look bad. But in a game versus the Broncos, you could start a lot of different Packers options. Adam Troutman, you sit him. Broncos tight ends don't have upside. Dolphins at Eagles, you start Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert, like I said, it's going to be hot and cold. And the past 2 weeks have been good. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, he had the big game, and then last week it was good. It wasn't great, it was just good. Dallas Goedert is just simply on too good of an offense to not start, and he simply has too high of upside to not start. Similar to a George Kittle type, similar to a Cole Kmet type. You just don't sit this type of player when he's got that type of upside. Durham Smythe, I could understand wanting to possibly play him. I would not play him over a lot of different options. I wouldn't play him over Luke Musgrave. I wouldn't play him over Gerald Everett. I would play him above Donald Parham personally, though, because he's a tight end 1 in an offense that's more explosive than the Chargers offense is. Durham Smythe doesn't get consistent volume, though. The only reason I could see playing him is because of the offensive upside, and I can understand this one for sure. 49ers at Vikings, the Monday night matchup. You start both tight ends in here. There's not much to talk about. TJ Hawkinson, no-brainer start. He's one of the few weapons left right now, and George Kittle could possibly be in that same situation. We'll have to see what the status of CMC is. We'll have to see what the status of Deebo Samuel is. Either way, you don't sit George Kittle because, like I said with Dallas Goedert, the big playability is there, and the offensive upside is certainly there. So let me know what you think of this list right here and what questions you need answered before Week 7 fantasy football. And if you want to see the top 30 wide receiver rankings for Week 7 fantasy football, click on this video right here.